Hello, good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? I'm Tom Dufresne, Managing Director of Exis. Thank you all for joining. Long time no see, so many people in the meeting room, although, it's virtual, it's not the same. We are Exis, Butlers and Whiskets, a kind of virus crossed our plan to organize European Roadshow to share our knowledge, so we adapted. It's virtual, I know, but I look forward to see you sooner or later this year to have a beer, to have a chat, and to meet you in private. Let's thank you, Dries. I wanted to do this. I'm not finger pointing. When I raise my finger, Dries goes to the next slide. We wanted to do this first session in the Netherlands. Well, also virtually, feel free to get into the mood. We're in the Netherlands. Pick out the nicest picture. Welcome everybody. This is an Exis knowledge sharing. It's a crash course, a short guide, a lot of useful links. I would say sit back, enjoy the insights of our team. Everything will be published, so no rush, don't take notes. You will find everything on the internet. I can only say enjoy the presentation, and Dries, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tom. We have several speakers who will walk you through this webinar. So I'm Dries Lamont, the head of marketing, as you may have seen from all the emails and invites. I'll talk a bit about the GTS and the infrastructure, and obviously, most importantly, how to obtain your license and some requirements before passing the word to my colleagues. So the transmission system operator in the Dutch gas market is GasUnie Transport Services, founded and owned by the Dutch state. The main trading hub is the title transfer facility, shortened TTF. It's a non-physical virtual point, has the highest number of market participants and the highest volume in Europe. And lately, it's even starting to rival Henry Hub in the USA in terms of global most traded volume. So why is that? Well, we look at the location of the Netherlands and the transmission network, and we see immediately it's connected to a lot of other networks as well. There's the high pressure pipelines with high calorific gas, and there's also a network of low calorific gas, which is mainly using the locally produced G-gas or Groningengas and connecting via blending stations to the high calorific gas network. More info throughout the presentation and on almost every slide via links to go in detail, find more PDFs and information for the people that really want to go in depth. And the connections obviously are also with a lot of storages to supply securely everyone. So you have the LNG gate terminal in Rotterdam, jointly owned by GTS and Vopak, and some of the main storages are Bergermeer, managed by TACA, Zuidwending in former salt caverns, managed by Energy Stock, and several other sites. Which brings us to borders and strategic interconnectors. Again, lots of gas flowing towards and through the Netherlands, overland borders with Belgium and Germany, and the Gasco-Norway grid via Emden, interconnection with the UK via the Bacton-Baagstand line, and overseas borders on the Dutch gas fields in the North Sea. They are connected also to production sites in the Danish and the UK territorial waters as well. And obviously, you have the Groningen Gasfield, the biggest production site, which is ending scheduled end of 2022. There's 200 more than 200 smaller fields on and offshore. You can also find details via the interactive map linked below. Now, how to obtain your license to get started as a PV. A licensed PV is a programmaverantwoordelijke in Dutch, or program responsible party. There's three types of license. You have the A license for people who want to ship be active on TTF and do shipping across borders and storages, or deliveries to direct connected end users such as industrial sites. The B license covers everything in the A license, plus you can also make use of TTF-B and direct and end users connected behind the local distribution stations, the GOS or gasontvangsstation. C license is for traders who only want to be active on TTF. So what's some requirements? Well, GTS will mainly look at creditworthiness, financial security assessment, your capability. You need to prove that you can secure safely, operate safely in the market. You need an EIC code, and then there's 2 points where Axis as a service provider can help you with is setting up these communication lines and doing message checks, and the 24/7 contact person who you need at all times to be reached by GTS in case of emergency. Timeline, depending on how you meet these requirements, is on average up to 6 months. Creditworthiness is linked as a separate link because it's a very important step for the necessary funds and bank guarantees. And then the communication lines are B2B via XML for A and B licenses and EDGAS, obviously. And then you also need access to the Gasport account. That's for all types of licenses. I pass on the word to my colleague, Wim.
Thank you, Dries. Hi, everyone. My name is Wim. I'm a part of the operations team here at Axis. Today, I'm going to teach you how to talk to GTS without ever having to pick up your phone. I'm sure you've already read the topics I'm going through on the right by now, so let's dive right into it. So first of all, in order to talk to GTS, you will need to set up lines of communication. GTS chooses to use the AS4 to do this. Once your AS4 connection has been established, you can start sending EDGAS XML messages to GTS. For more in-depth information about AS4 as well as EDGAS XML messages, I suggest you visit the links above. GTS uses some standard European messages, such as the nomination, the ECNO, and the confirmation, but they also use some GTS-specific messages that are not used in other countries, such as the program document, the program confirmation, the balancing document, the balancing confirmation, and the clearing confirmation. We will go more in depth about these message types further into the presentation. So first of all, what is a nomination? A nomination is actually a transport message that we send to GTS, in which we let them know how much gas we wish to transport for each hour of the day at a certain exit entry point, where we announce against which counterparty code we want to nominate. These messages always have to be in kilowatt hours per hour as chosen by GTS. Every shipper in the GTS has his own EDGAS or AEC code, so that's shipper unique. Your nominations are actually necessary. You have to send them for each network point for which you have capacity. If you fail to send in a nomination, you won't receive any flow, so you will receive a 0. All nominations are matched by GTS together with their neighboring network operators at most border points and offshore pipelines, so they compare what you send in to what the other side sends in. For all nomination that GTS receives, the lesser of rule principle applies. So this means that if I send in a nomination of 100 kilowatts hour per hour and my counterparty only sends in 90, then we will both be matched at the 90, the lesser of the two. A nomination file has to follow a certain body as well, it's defined by EDGAS. So at the right, you can see an example of a nomination file. So some things always have to be present in this message. First of all, the validity period or the time interval. That's basically just saying for which cause day and which hours you wish to nominate. You always have to mention your own AEC code, so GTS knows who is sending the message. You have to mention a location code. So for example, the TTF, if you want to nominate a hub deal, you have to mention the AEC or EDGAS code of the counterparty, so GTS knows against who you want to nominate this flow. You have to give a direction to your flow to let GTS know if you want to buy or sell this volume. And of course, you have to mention which volume you wish to flow. When sending in nominations, you also have to take into account certain lead times. What is a lead time? A lead time is the fastest hour in the near future where you can change your physical flow at a certain location. So for day ahead in general, GTS expects every shipper to send out their first set of nominations at 1400 on the day before the flow takes place. If you want to renominate your flow within day, that's possible, but you also have to take into account some lead times. For entry exit points, you have to take into account full hour plus 2. So that means if I want to send out a new nomination at 1445, my next full hour would be 1500. Add 2 hours on top of that, and I can change my flow starting at 1700. At the right, you can see an example of how we implemented this logic into our own tool. So all the hours that are in gray are no longer possible to renominate our flow. And the first hour in yellow is automatically set at full hour plus 2. So we know that that's the first hour in the future we can start a renomination. For TTF, we have a much shorter lead time of only half an hour. And this is also for some specific storages and other points. And once again, all nominations have to use the lesser of rule principle. In the Netherlands, you also have the option to go into a balance agreement with another shipper. By doing this, you will transfer your imbalance risk to another shipper via a balance agreement. A balance receiving shipper and a balance supplying shipper will exchange the agreed amounts then at the TTF-B. There are some different types of balancing agreements you can enter in, such as the percentage balance, where you will just trade away a certain percentage of your imbalance risk to another shipper, but you can also enter in a max or min balance, where you will just set a maximum upper limit or a minimum lower limit in advance. These messages are sent in a bulk message. These also have certain rules attached to it. You can send a bulk message up to 400 days before the delivery date. You can also send a bulk today for tomorrow and the next days, but you can never send a bulk within days. So the first nomination in your bulk has to be a future date. For bulks, the lesser of rule principle doesn't apply, but the zero rule applies. So that means if your bulk is not the same as what the other party sends in, you will just receive 0. You won't receive the lesser of the two. A matching for a bulk message is received via a bulk message or balance confirmation. So we now discussed different types of messages, but what's the general flow? So we as a shipper will send a nomination towards GTS. As soon as GTS receives our message, they will send us an ACNO message, which is basically a confirmation of processing on their side. As you can see on the right, there are some different types of ACNO codes you can receive. If everything runs smoothly, you will receive a 01G, that your message has been processed and accepted. You can also receive a 66G, which is invalid contract. When will you receive a code like this? Well, mostly when you don't have capacity yet for the point you are trying to nominate. After you receive your ACNO and the nomination of you and the counterparty has been checked against each other by GTS, you will receive a NOMRES. Inside the NOMRES, there will also be an intermediate matching notice. And as you can see below, there's an example of our tool, how we implement these messages. So you can see a nomination that we have sent out at a certain time. So in this example, we sent out 920,000. We receive an ACNO code back that our nomination has been processed and accepted correctly by GTS. We then receive a matching notice included in the NOMRES with the same volume. So we know that the counterparty has also nominated 920, and we receive our confirmation with the final result, meaning that we actually receive our flow of 920,000. And I will now pass the word to my colleague Jonas, who will guide you through the next part.
Thank you very much, Wim. Hello, good morning. My name is Jonas Lichterts. I am, like Wim, also part of the operations team at Exis, and I will now present you the balancing parameters, the balancing rules of the GTS grid, and I will, as last topic, explain you Gasport and the B2B services. First of all, GTS has a market-based balancing system that is in line with the European Union regulation. The first two balancing parameters are the POS and the SBS. SBS stands for the system balance signal, and this is the sum of the positions of all shippers active in the GTS grid. The SBS also has different limits which are available on Gasport and can be downloaded via an API. On the right, you can see a screenshot of the SBS, as it is visualized in our nomination and balancing tool Export. The second parameter is the POS, and POS stands for Portfolio Imbalance Signal and shows the position of each shipper individually. The volumes related to your POS position are also available on Gasport and can be downloaded via an API. On the right, you can also see the POS as it is showed in our nomination balance and balancing tool Export. The third parameter is the causer-helper principle, which means that whenever the system is long portfolios will be defined as causers and short portfolios will be defined as helpers. On the other hand, when the system is short, then short portfolios will be defined as causers and long portfolios will be defined as helpers. Another parameter is the damping. So GTS has an entry-exit system where damping or smoothing is applied. This damping is obligatory when transporting gas to small-scale end users and is calculated based on the alpha formula. So each day before 2100 CET, each shipper has to send a PRODOC to GTS. This PRODOC will be confirmed via a PROCON at around 2200 CET. The PRODOC message must be balanced and confirmed in order to get your damping. So if there are mismatches in the PRODOC, the shipper will not get his damping, which will result in a higher swing in the POS. Also here on the right, you can see a screenshot of how the damping is visualized in export. First of all, you see the flow in on the red curve, you see the flow out, so your consumption on the blue curve, and then the pink curve is the damping that is applied to your portfolio. After the balancing parameters, I will now explain you a little bit the balancing actions. There are two types of products that GTS can buy or sell. First one, if there is a balancing action can be performed in the light green zone, then GTS will buy or sell end-of-day product. This means that GTS is taking or delivering gas in equal shares until the end of the day, with effect from a next full hour plus 4. So as an example, a balancing action that occurs at 1320 CET will result in gas being delivered from 1700 till 6 CET. The second balancing action can be performed in the orange or the red zone. In that case, GTS will buy the next hour product. So gas is then taken or delivered in 1 hour from the next hour. As an example, a balancing action at 1320 CET will then result in gas being delivered from 1400 till 1500. A balancing action will be performed on the ICE index within day market, better known as the within day balancing action. This means that GTS will buy or sell gas for balancing actions on the ICE index gas exchange. Gas is then delivered single-sided on TTF to GTS, and GTS will then reallocate it to the causers via a clearcon. A clearcon is an EDIGAS message containing volumes and prices. On the right, you can see a screenshot of a process clearcon in export showing you the bought or sold volumes and the prices per kilowatt hour. The purpose of such a balancing action is to bring the SBS back to the dark green zone boundary. Then, as a last topic, I will now explain you Gasport and the B2B XML service. Gasport is a portal providing web-based access to transport information. In this way, you can view the information relevant and available for you as a shipper, including the invoices. Also, Gasport is required for all kinds of shipper licenses, meaning A, B, and C licenses. Then the B2B portal or the B2B service makes it possible to download information and integrate it into your system. This service provides interface based on web service technology to retrieve the information. Due to the role of shippers within the balancing regime, shippers with contracted capacity on physical entry or exit points, meaning license A or B, have to make use of the B2B services because the B2B infrastructure is 24-hour service based. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will now pass the word to my colleague Dieter Juet.
Hi everyone, my name is Dieter. I'm a business analyst at Exis, and I'll be talking to you a bit more about deliveries to end users and the role of EDSN. First of all, a bit about the direct connected deliveries. So as a shipper, you have two possibilities to deliver to customers. You can either choose to deliver to direct connected customers, and these are the customers that are directly connected to the high pressure grid of GTS. You can do this with an A license, and they are connected to your portfolio via an exit booking on the relevant exit point at GTS. You do need to register yourself as a supplier with GTS before you're able to do so. The second possibility is to deliver gas to customers behind the transfer point with a local gas transport network, also called a GOS in Dutch, gasontvangsstation, which is operated by the RNBs or the DGOs, regionale beheerders, or the distribution grid operators. For that, you do require a B license, and this type of client is connected to your portfolio via a supplier who also needs to execute the switching process. For both these types of deliveries, you can of course see your allocated values, and those are either available, as Jonas already explained, on the B2C Gasport portal or via the B2B XML service, for which you do require a certificate. You can request a certificate via the form of which you can find the link on the slide. Next on the agenda is a bit more about the switching process. So GTS is responsible for the registration of the direct connected customers and the relation with the shipper supplier. They hold that relation is registered in the switch register or the aansluitingsregister. Changes in that register are processed by means of switch messages, which need to be provided by the suppliers. Unique EN codes in the switch register are an essential part of the switching process, and much more detailed info can be found on the link. When does one need to send a switch message? Basically, you need to send it whenever party changes the supplier and or program responsible party. In that case, the new supplier needs to send a switch message to GTS. There is a separate switch process via EDSN for customers behind the ROS, either accessible via web services or the CAC portal. And yeah, you can find more info on the EDSN website. You do require a Microsoft SharePoint account, because the part where it's all detailed is a private part on the portal. What is EDSN? EDSN, also called the Dutch Energy Data Hub, basically operates the Dutch Energy Data Hub on behalf of all Dutch transmission and distribution system operators. And their purpose is basically to ensure the optimal functioning of the energy market via using uniform communication methods, transparent market processes, and secure data access. In order to be able to consult the essential market information or to provide this information in the case of, for example, switch messages, a new entry into the markets, be it a program responsible or programmaverantwoordelijke PV with a license B, needs to register with EDSN. Allocation and reconciliation messages for both shippers and suppliers are exchanged via the Nexus Hub, which is also operated by EDSN, and for that you require an AS4 connection with the platform. Perhaps just quickly explaining the abbreviations. PV stands for programmaverantwoordelijke or a shipper, and LV for leverancier or supplier. We have different types of messages that are sent by EDSN. Firstly, we've got the allocation messages, of which you can see all the types on the slides. Most important ones, I'd say, would be the LUL and the BUL messages, because these do contain allocated values, whereas the BUL messages, the difference between LUL and BUL is that the BUL is exclusively for suppliers, and they contain allocations for the hourly measured connections. Furthermore, the C info contains the measurement correction factor, and the T info contains the realized temperatures for each temperature zone. Second type of messages are reconciliation messages. For those of you who might wonder what reconciliation is, it's basically the settling of differences between provisional consumption, which is attributed to the clients via profiles, and the actual consumption over a certain period of time, namely after the final allocations. Two types of reconciliation messages. We have the RN info on one hand, the RS info on the other hand, of which the last is an exclusive shipper message. And that one also contains the financial consequences of the reconciliation next to the settlements in energy values. Both messages contain the data for the past 17 months. Then the last type of messages are the capacity messages, also called the OV exit messages. And they contain the capacity data, which basically means that for each user category, you will get the number of connections active within that user category and the estimated annual volume, my apologies. For the hourly measured connection, you will get the maximum hourly offtake possible. And again, more info on these messages and the implementation thereof you can find on the links on the slide. And then now I give the word to my colleague, Jonas van Volsum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dieter. Hi everybody, my name is Jonas. I am partially test lead at Axis and partially account manager. I will quickly walk you through the different capacity bookings. They are available on GTS. GTS has various capacity bookings such as capacity on entry-exit system, capacity for first come first serve network points, capacity on the direct connected end users, and ROS capacity. The first one up is the entry and exit system. GTS applies an entry and exit system where gas flows into the network at entry points and leaves the network at exit points. In order to be able to flow on these points, you can book capacity on the PRISMA platform for these entry and exit points via auctions. Entry capacity gives a shipper the right to inject into the national grid at the entry points, and exit capacity gives the right to withdraw from the network at the exit points. 5 different products are available on GTS. These are the yearly, quarterly, monthly, day ahead, and within day capacity. Once a capacity booking is concluded, apologies, next slide. Once the capacity is concluded, the booking will consist of only one capacity product. Also, they will contain only one booking ID number, which is unique. Tariffs have been set for all entry and exit points by the Dutch Authority for Consumers and Markets. A link to their website you can see right here. Also, a PRISMA API is available, which allows you to request and or post data to or from the PRISMA platform directly on your own IT system. We at Axis, we also have the possibility to connect our software export to PRISMA via this API. Furthermore, the auction times and run times may vary from product to product. They are pre-published and can be checked in the auction calendar found both on the GTS as well as the PRISMA website. A quick intermezzo here, as most of you probably know already, the bookable points as from the 1st October 2021 on the German virtual interconnection points will of course be changed due to the German market merger later on this year. Next up, we've got the booking capacity at first come, first serve network points. The FCFS network points can also be booked via PRISMA. Here you book capacity for the domestic entry and exit points. Quick note here, these do not include the virtual interconnection points. And they are based on a first come, first served basis, as the name itself already indicates, of course. This means that it's not done via an auction as the previous one. For the domestic entry and exit points, GTS uses the same 5 capacity products as are also used for the interconnection points. So the yearly, the quarterly, monthly, day and within day capacity products, and also have mostly the same run times as the previous one. One exception here is worth to mention that the yearly capacity product can start from any gas month during the year. So for example, the 1st of this month, May 2021, and will be effective for the following 12 consecutive months compared to the entry and exit points, which have to be booked from the 1st of October. The capacity to book this capacity, you can go under the section transport on the PRISMA website, where you will find the subsection FCFS booking. Next up, we've got the direct connected parties. They need to book exit capacity on their network points, and this is generally done by the supplier on that point. Alternatively, the end user themselves can also book their own capacity. In order to do so, the party needs to become an end user with exit capacity, or EWEX. And they also need to obtain the corresponding license. For shipping the gas to this connection, a transfer of use is always needed from the direct connected party to their corresponding shipper. A quick note here to remember as well is that an AWACS it will always be a direct connected party, but the other way around is not the case. So a direct connected party is not always an EWACS. The capacity GTS reserves it's for the end user on your connection point for the following year as well. If for the following year the reserved capacity has not been booked before the previous December, previously before the 1st of December, then the booking request functions as well on a first come first served basis for that point. The last capacity types is booking capacity to local distribution system at the host points. GTS makes exit capacity available for these exit points connected to the local distribution network's DSO. At these points, gas flows from the national grid into the distribution network. If a shipper wants to inject gas into the distribution network, the shipper needs to obtain a GTS license B, as my colleague Dieter previously explained already. The capacity at these points is not possible to be booked up front by the shippers, but GTS contracts this capacity for the shippers on a monthly basis, and the booking can be adjusted 4 months later if necessary. An important date here to mention is also that the first month will be contacted 6 days after the end of the month, and later on 10 days after the beginning of the 4th month for the adjustments. The booking is based on data that is found on the connection register, which contains the standard yearly usages, which is managed by the local network operator. Thank you. I will now pass the word back to Tom Dufresne.
Thank you, Luigi, for the good presentation. Thank you all for being still with us here. First and for all, only 2 slides left, so hang on, and then we go to the conclusion. I would first like to thank the Axis team, because I'm very happy that they performed a great job so far. I hope I don't ruin this webinar in the last 2 slides. The last 2 slides are about TTF-B, because before the webinar, when we published it, we had a lot of questions. Can we supply domestic customers via TTF-B? Only 2 slides, but please be very pay attention, please, with this. This is the classic standard configuration, as everybody knows it. You are a supplier, you want to sell to domestic clients behind the GOS and industrials behind the GOS. You have to look for a balancing party, because in the switching messages, you will appoint a balancing party that is responsible for the balancing risk in this configuration. As a supplier, you don't have the balancing risk. You pay a premium for that. The shipper does the work, as we explained in this presentation. It's the balancing party who undergoes the balancing regime of GTS. Yes, there is. This is a way to push the supply by balancing parties to TTF-B. It would require for a supplier to become his own PV or shipper. You have to become a shipper license B at the GTS. Of course, have to set up a shipper connection with EDSN, and you have to do one initial custom switch of all of your customers to your own PV. Would you, in the previous scenario, change every year to another balancing party? You would have to do a big administration each time again. In this case, only one time you switch to your own PV. The most exciting here is that, of course, you don't want a balancing risk at TTF-B. You can ask your balancing party to deliver the full amount at TTF-B. That means that you would send a BALDOC with 100% signal to GTS, where you tell in that message, this is my balancing party, or even balancing parties. You can differentiate your buy side also at TTF-B, like you could do at TTF. So that means, in fact, that you transfer the balancing risk. As you can see, your POS would remain nicely flat. But of course, the nice thing is that you could say, look, I only send a BALDOC at 98%. You would get 2% of your consumption signal, and you could start testing and learning along the road how to become a PV. This was a small contribution. I hope the guys who asked the question have the full answer now. You can go to the next slide, please. Would there be any questions? Please do it via email to contact@axis.com or contact your account at Axis as you know them. We are too many people now to do questions and answer, but I would like to thank you for joining us today. Everything will be published, so I would say be safe, stay safe, and have a great day, and see you next time. Bye guys, take care.